Hi, Sia. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi. I've been waiting to record a podcast with you my whole life.
I am thrilled we could make this work. Are you having a good Acquire or Be Acquired?
It's one of my favorite conferences. It's great to be in sunny Phoenix.
Yes.
And I think this morning was a great start. Obviously, we loved on the show kicking off Sunday morning, so it's good.
Tradition, it's church.
Yeah, thank church.
Well, I just wanted to grab you at AOBA while we're here together and talk a little bit about how your institution, ConnectOne, is approaching innovation.
Yep.
And I thought you'd be a great person because that's actually in your title.
Yes.
Your title is Brand and Innovation Officer.
Yep.
What does a Brand and Innovation Officer do?
Well, let me tell you how we got here first. So I was
Please.
the Chief Brand Officer, and I added innovation to the role in 2021.
Okay.
And so, by definition, ConnectOne has valued building a brand. We know who we are. We know who our clients are. We know our value proposition. We know who we serve. And so, if we're going to do that and we believe we're building a brand, then we have to be innovative.
Okay.
And so I give our senior leadership, our chairman, CEO, Frank Sorrentino, a lot of credit for being forward thinking because it was important for him to align our innovation efforts and strategy with brand.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if it has been done before, but I hadn't heard of it. And so to answer your question, what do I actually do?
Yeah.
Some days I say I'm just that junk drawer that, you know, when you don't know where something belongs, you put it in that drawer. But I own a lot of the marketing efforts, all the marketing efforts, the brand building, the PR, the corporate communication. And then on the innovation side, I explore all of great fintechs like you have here at AOBA. I explore opportunities to drive our value proposition, build our brand, and deliver meaningful solutions to our clients in ways that we may not have done before.
Okay.
So I'm not necessarily saying, hey, let's unplug one vendor and plug someone in, but we're exploring opportunities to make improvements for our clients and typically reimagine systems or processes.
Yeah. So is that innovation broader than maybe technology? It's maybe a holistic approach of
100%
of using capabilities and tools and thinking holistically about an institution, right?
Yes. I believe if you look at innovation as just being a person or a role that sources technology, you will fail.
Oh, interesting.
Because true innovation requires rethinking, reimagining processes. We don't solely want to digitize. We don't solely just want to take a paper to a PDF. We want to make for better workflows.
Oh, okay.
And so it requires change management internally. It requires sometimes wiping the slate clean and taking a little bit of a first principles approach.
Yeah.
And sometimes it requires rethinking of roles or an org chart.
Yeah.
I don't do that alone. I build partners across the organization and drive those conversations.
Yeah, so let's talk a little about how ConnectOne approaches innovation. Someone had to explain the saying paving cow paths to me, and because
I've never heard this.
Okay, I'll explain it to you as best as I can. So cows will just walk along like land, and they won't make the straightest path. They'll take a meandering path. And then what would happen afterwards is someone, instead of like looking at an area and building the best road for the vehicles that would use that road, they would just take an existing cow path and pave it, and then you have maybe a road that's more meandering or isn't, as direct. And so that saying refers to, digitizing legacy processes, maybe rather than going back and doing first principles. What would this process look like if we were going to do it today, start doing it today? So thinking about innovation beyond technology, how does ConnectOne approach innovation?
Okay, so I probably have two answers to that question.
Okay.
First is, we had to sit down and say, what is innovation? What does it mean here? And what's our North Star?
Yeah.
And so, to me, who is ConnectOne and what is our brand? Going back to your first question.
Yeah.
So we're a high-performing, best-in-class, leading, highly efficient commercial bank that delivers really great service to the small to middle market business client.
Yes.
So all of the innovation efforts, the time, money, resources we spend have to fuel those efforts.
Yes.
So we made the decision that anything on the innovation side feeds and propels our value proposition. we're not really going to go into another ancillary business or experiment elsewhere. And if we do that, we're going to say this is sort of out of our mandate, and we're conscious of it.
And it'll be understood.
It's all understood. So the first defining what is innovation is sort of going back to the brand and defining the parameters in which we play.
Yeah.
My approach, I don't know that there's one single approach.
Sure.
I think part of this is just the way I work. I am curious. I explore all opportunities. I love meeting. I love talking to you about, we talk about companies or challenges or data. So I like having a lot of irons in the fire, exploring opportunities. And so some initiatives come out of a need internally, and some initiatives come from external opportunities. But because we have a nimble and entrepreneurial culture, if there's an opportunity to arise, we can make the business case for it. We can move.
Yeah, and it seems like bringing in you as this brand officer and tasking you with innovation meant that you're extremely interdisciplinary across the bank, right? You weren't siloed into one business line the way that someone on the lending might think differently than someone on deposits. They might have different incentives, different things that they're focused on. And they might, I know that they all understand how their efforts support the bank, but, they're not tasked every single day with having that holistic view of the bank, right?
100%. Well said. And actually, when we first established this innovation function, I toyed with the question, what does the team look like? Who do I hire? Do you hire a project manager? Do you hire a digital, someone with digital experience? And I still don't have a hire in that function. But what I did was build stakeholders across the company in every single department to, one, I don't want to say educate, but build knowledge around what is going on in the banking space, in the fintech space, and, by the way, among our clients. What are the tools our clients are using? What do they need? And so now when we have brought efforts to the table, I have, I don't want to say buy-in, but an understanding across the company. I have stakeholders I can lean on.
Shared knowledge, shared values, right?
Exactly.
You guys are understanding how all of your efforts go in the same direction.
Yeah, because innovation is an extension of strategy, and I feel strongly it should never be siloed to one area of the bank.
Yeah. Well, ConnectOne recently announced it agreed to acquire the first of Long Island Corp in September 2024, which fits into the conference theme of acquire, be acquired. So,
you mean this isn't a tech conference?
I'm just being a little literal about the name. So how does the bank think about M&A opportunities against organic growth opportunities?
So we've always been a growth company. Since inception, we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
And thank you. And we sit at about $9.8 billion in assets. I'm actually talking to you a week before earnings call, so that may change. And so a big part of that is organic growth.
Yeah.
And the great thing about being an organic growth company is we're not dependent on M&A.
Sure.
We can be really opportunistic and move when the opportunities make sense.
Yeah.
And so the partnership with First of Long Island only propels our existing growth strategy. It's an adjacent market. Yeah. There's a lot of synergy. As an added bonus, it puts us well past the $10 billion threshold. And so it propels our growth strategy that we already have in place.
Yeah.
And I think every one of our transactions, whether they were bank transactions or the fintech acquisition of Bowfly, fits that model. So I don't know. To me, it's exciting. We can pick and choose what makes the most sense for our company.
Completely. So we've established that innovation is not the same as technology. How does the bank think about and use technology?
In the same way we think about electricity and running water.
Also important technologies, actually.
So I think I think banking has gone through a change in that technology used to be a vendor that you plugged, or a tool that you plugged in, and then when it became outdated, you unplugged it and plugged something new in.
Sure.
And as an industry, we've shifted, and there's a culture of continuous improvement among technology within banking, and so it's part of everything that we do. Yeah. I think what we have done really well is build muscularity in continuously evolving that technology. And I think it started with cloud, our move to nCino in the early days. Yeah. And now that the changes are just ramping up.
Right.
But to me, this is an exciting time because we have opportunities to make change across every division of the bank, and now every division therefore gets pulled into it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's the underpinning of how a company runs. I think now through innovation, through strategy, we add how are we going to deploy it and where.
Right. And so you're not just at Acquire Be Acquired to pick up knowledge. You're also here to share knowledge on a panel about data.
Yes.
Data is a large area of focus for me this year. And so I would love to pick your brain. My first question is, how does ConnectOne think about data, and where does that philosophy or focus or mindsets come from?
So I think data is an integral part of our business. It always has been for banking, right? The reality is we've always generated call reports and earnings reports, and yes, we're in the banking business, but a byproduct of that is being in the data business.
Right, the financial data for sure.
Yes,
right.
But what's changed is we've built our banks to be really robust organizations. We've taken on more tools. We've built more technology, and so I think our approach came through some of our own learning and also learning from other industries.
Yeah.
And so the one takeaway is you need an aligned but multi-pronged approach to data. So there's a need and requirements around financial data.
Yes.
There's a need and requirements around regulatory data.
Yes.
However, we have an enormous amount of client data, behavioral data, prospect data. And so it's time for banks to really invest in that approach. The first step is to harness, analyze, and digest that data. I think most of the industry has moved down that road. And we've taken the idea of data out of one department. You know, we used to have a data guy. Now data is a strategy, and we have a governance committee. And we have to, every area has a different need from data and can create different value from what we use. But of course, it has to be aligned.
Right.
And I think you need a little bit of a North Star from, I use the term North Star a lot. You need some guidance from executive leadership to know what we are measuring, what's important to look at, and back your data efforts into that.
You make it sound so easy.
It's not. Listen, we started building a data lake like many banks. It was years in the making, and it's easy to look back and tell you what we've learned, but going through the process, it's hard. You know, as an industry, we work with legacy systems, and at the same time, we're working with the latest and greatest tech, and we're exploring what's coming down the pike in the future.
I think data has taken on some new urgency for banks as they think about any potential usage of AI.
Yes.
And there's, to understand this is a multi-year process, there's a lot of decisions that need to be made up front, a lot of investments to be made. And then it's like eating your vegetables. You have to eat them every day. And just because you decided to follow a diet doesn't mean that every day you won't have to make a decision that supports that, that initial decision, right?
Yeah, I think what you're saying is you need a discipline around not only your data governance, but how you're going to manage data moving forward. If I partner with a new company, let's say I meet someone at this conference and we decide to partner, that creates the potential for ConnectOne to create new data. And that's a new system that data will live in. Well, we have a discipline around how that will be managed going forward. Obviously, to your point, AI will change that and only increase what we can do with that data.
Yeah. So how do you use data in your job as brand and innovation officer, and what have you learned as a result of this data strategy that you were talking about?
So it's a big question. It is a big question because on the marketing side, I think we're using it in ways to provide greater value to our clients.
Okay.
By the way, we're also identifying where we have gaps in data and where we need to collect data or connect systems.
And I think that's really valuable too, to understand what you didn't have.
Yes, we're looking at opportunities to target new prospective clients, to cross-sell, to increase wallet share and remain competitive in this environment. We're learning how banking trends are changing across each of our segments, right? We have 3 segments. We have the consumer, we have the small business, and we have the commercial client. And what changes for each of them, and so how can we better serve them, and how can we get in front of more of the right audience? So that's the marketing side.
Right.
On the day-to-day innovation and running the company side, I mentioned harnessing, analyzing, digesting data. We've sort of gotten through that phase.
Yes.
And now we're exploring how we can utilize that data and remove some of the silos that exist within our infrastructure. And I know this is a challenge probably every bank here faces.
Yeah.
And as an industry, we're working to find great solutions.
Yes.
And so to me, it's really exciting to see what the potential is.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's really exciting to think that you're kind of over, I don't want to say the work will never be done, but you're kind of over the initial investment work, and now it's the day-to-day maintenance, and then to say, well, what can we do with this, right?
Well,
What's possible?
Yes, and we've gotten to a point where we've realized there is no initial investment.
Oh.
It's continuous improvement, and it's ongoing because
That's
to your point,
fair, yeah.
there's more coming.
Right.
But it's not a one and done.
Yeah.
Just like our technology or just like our innovation efforts.
Right. You'll never stop doing it. But I think like the work of the data strategy, the governance,
Yes.
the buy-in,
The alignment.
right?
Yes.
That work is hopefully past it, and everyone kind of believes and works towards the same things, and then does it every day for the rest of
Yeah.
for the rest of the banks.
And one of the great things of going through that process is we have a team of people who understand their data structure, understand what we have, what we can do, what we can't do.
Right.
So when we talk about what's next, we can have really meaningful conversations.
Well, so I think we've talked a little bit about what's great about using data. What has been challenging, especially thinking about reflecting on your experiences?
So what has not been challenging? For the first challenge is a little bit of the social challenge.
Okay.
Every business line or business unit has a different set of priorities.
Sure.
And creating alignment was we went through a number of challenges to get there. And I think every company should do that. You can't have data or data strategy just live in one department.
Yeah.
But what a lender or a senior lender cares about is very different from what a CFO cares about. Is very different from what the head of sales or the head of marketing cares about. So that's the first. I think the second is obviously the disconnect across systems.
The systems.
Our systems are still siloed.
You have all the human alignment, but that doesn't mean the systems talk to each other.
We still run on legacy infrastructure. We've made enhancements with connectivity, but as an industry, we're not there.
Yeah.
But I think what's exciting is that's the next opportunity to build. There's banks here that are building some of their own solutions. There's fintechs that are working with new ways
a problem to solve.
those. Yeah, you have conversations about cloud-based cores popping up. So I think that's an active challenge that we have an opportunity to solve for as an industry.
So do you have any tips or advice for other financial institutions as they're maybe in the formation of their data strategy, governance process, or the analytics identifying use cases? Any tips?
I think, well, I'll tell you what lessons we learned that worked for us.
Sure. Okay.
We hired talent that understood data. And
where did you find these people?
Our chief technology officer, Sharif Alexander, is a software engineer and a developer. Okay. And we were working with him on a project. And so the beauty is he brings a perspective that from a technology first way of thinking. So did he have to learn banking and learn about all of our disparate systems? Yes, but
the way we all had to learn about banking at one point. Yeah.
And so I think that was hugely beneficial to us and allowed us to move through the process much faster.
Sure.
I think another tip, I said this before, there cannot be one department that owns the data strategy. Yeah. They may oversee the work and own the project, but there has to be alignment around the key players. So what are the needs of each area and how do you create alignment? And there's got to be the executive team pointing the team in the right direction. Like, to put it simply, what gets measured gets done. What does the executive team want done? And then back into measuring that.
Yeah. So where do you think ConnectOne can go with its data? How do you imagine using it?
Well, today I think the first opportunity, I'm really proud to say we've invested a lot in modern solutions and delivering best-in-class solutions for our clients. How can... There may still be gaps. And by the way, our clients are evolving and getting smarter. And, we're moving into a space where API banking matters to the commercial client. And so to me, we've set the groundwork to connect our data and report on it. The next step is allowing our systems to communicate more effectively together. Because if we can do that, then we can start reimagining our processes like we first talked about in a different way.
Yeah.
Without limitations, without system limitations, and then build solutions starting with the client and backing into what we have to do. You know, as an industry, we have had to start with the product and the systems that we have today. So,
Sure.
So I think we've laid some really great groundwork, and I think the opportunities to build out of the box solutions for commercial businesses is ahead of us.
So I mentioned that I think one reason why there's a lot of urgency around data and data management strategies is the potential applications for AI. What is ConnectOne thinking when it comes to AI? What are some things you're excited about with AI? What are some things you're kind of keeping an eye on but aren't maybe doing at this moment?
So I think AI, or let's call it generative AI, is still in the early stages. I don't want to mess up some of the great automation that has
the broadest brush that you could possibly paint. Yeah, go ahead.
Just in case regulators are listening. But I think obviously AI presents so much opportunity, but an equal amount of risks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what I foresee if I were to look out to the future is that it makes developing and managing our own tools much more efficient and affordable for smaller banks. And so we can do more with leaner tech teams.
Yes.
We can, even from a marketing standpoint, we've all, played with ChatGPT, and we can see what it can do. It can make teams more efficient.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think we'll all need AI governance policies.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to understand the risks that come with it. I don't think we fully comprehend what the challenges will be.
Yeah.
And I think we need to build governance that can evolve as quickly as the technologies evolve.
Yes.
Of course, there's fraud risks. I think that's the hottest topic. How will AI drive increases in fraud or even we're seeing it make social engineering smarter or more data driven.
The misspelled emails and the phishing, the misspellings, that's going to go away, right?
It's already gone.
You can't use the misspellings anymore.
It's already gone. And if I'm a hacker, I can use AI to learn about an industry, to aggregate data, to improve my writing.
Yeah.
And so, but just like every other new technology that came with threats, we've figured it out, we've managed it, and we've evolved.
I also think that one of the strange things I feel like I've witnessed is as generative AI has totally freaked out bankers, they've actually become more interested in machine learning and RPA.
Yeah.
Whereas several years ago they were like, well, I can't do machine learning and RPA.
Right.
And it's oh, so we'll do kind of the having a really scary AI made some technology feel a little bit more approachable and that's where
fair. Yeah.
that's where we'll look at.
Yeah.
And it is kind of interesting to think that there's just a continuum of all technology and AI is one of them. And so one's on the forefront and vanguard, maybe one's a little bit easier to implement, safer, easier to have governance over.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I 100% agree with what you're saying. It's forcing us all to step our game up. I mean, a conversation I was a part of a few months ago was how AI will make for an environment of self-driving money.
Yes.
So what happens when Alexa uses its AI tool to scan all of the deposit products out there in an ongoing way.
And just moves the money. You've already authorized it to move the money for you, so it just moves it, shuffles it around.
And so now what's my value proposition as a bank? How does the ConnectOne Bank brand compete in that environment?
Right.
Those to me are really interesting problems to think about and solve for.
You don't want to spool too much though, because you still got to solve the day-to-day problem and not the 3 years into the future problem. So what excites you most about the future of banking, and what are you most worried about? You can answer those in any order.
So I think what excites me the most is today we are at a really interesting time because as an industry, we've elevated our technological knowledge.
Okay.
The explosion of fintech has served our industry well.
Yeah.
Because it's given us partners to work with. It's shown us new ways of tackling financial services. Even when companies compete with us that are non-banks, it's showing us a better way. I think we many of us have invested in our data, our infrastructure, our tools.
Yeah.
And so to me, the ground is fertile for new growth and development. And so, yes, there's a lot coming, but I think our industry's never been more well positioned to take on these technological challenges than it is today.
Yeah.
You don't need to be a big bank to be able to do some really interesting things on an innovation or tech front.
I think that work is so important for the banks to believe that they're all capable of doing this, right? That the playing field is more level through technology. And I will say, maybe competition is good.
It is good, yeah. And to that end, there are other companies sort of dabbling in the financial services space, like big tech, who house an enormous amount of consumer data.
They have a lot of data.
So that is something that worries me. How do we compete with a tech company that has the infrastructure, that has the client data, and now all they have to do is move into the financial services sector?
Yeah, thinking about the role that tech has played in banking, it's definitely augmentative to banks, but there are some tech that the brand is so strong that the consumer is it's divorcing what is a bank to a consumer and why banks provide value, especially on the consumer side. But to think a little bit about, banks, the technology is flattening everything so much that what is a bank? What do banks provide? What is a financial services? Where can you get those from?
100%.
That is...
Well, and that goes back to the first question you asked me. That's why it's so important to us at ConnectOne Bank to build a brand.
Yeah.
To have a value proposition and keep investing in that.
And to explain, being a bank matters. It matters that you do transact with a bank.
Yep. And we don't just want to be a utility.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was a great conversation, and I hope you have a great AOBA.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.